it's Samantha. So today I'm coming to you with my spring anticipated releases. These are going to be my anticipated releases for February, March, and April. I understand that February is nearly over, and actually all of the books that I'm going to talk about have already come out, but you know, it's fine. I have 9 releases to talk about today. I actually have 3 for each month, which was actually a complete coincidence. All the release dates I mentioned will be for the UK. It might be the same in America as well, but because I live in the UK, obviously UK release dates are what are important to me, so I shall be mentioning the ones specifically for UK release date. So let's go ahead and get into the releases. So the first book I want to talk about is The Bells by Danielle Clayton. I'm sure you've already heard so much about this book, but this book just sounds so fascinating to me. This book follows this girl called Camellia, and she is what is called a belle in a world called Orleans, and it's supposed to be based off of New Orleans, I think, which I'm super excited for because I really love the show The Originals, and part of the reason I love it so much is because of the setting of New Orleans, so I'm very excited to see that in this book. And in this world, belles are the people who control beauty, and basically everyone is born grey and can be transformed into a beautiful person by a belle. Camellia wants to be chosen to be the belle for the Queen's court, basically the most important belle of them all, and basically once Camellia gets to the court, she realizes that it's not everything she expected it to be. It's actually full of a lot of dark secrets. Basically she's put in this situation where she has to choose between saving herself and her sisters or saving the princess, which will be risking her life and possibly change her world forever. This book has a really interesting premise. It kind of sounds a little bit like Uglies by Scott Westerfeld, in the fact that these people are born grey and are made beautiful is sort of reminiscent, but it sounds like it's gonna be way better because I personally did not like Uglies, but this just sounds way more exciting and it has this awesome New Orleans backdrop. So I'm super excited to pick this one up. I know it's already out, but I'm doing Read 5 Before You Buy this year, so I haven't been able to pick it up yet. And this book came out on the 6th of February. The next book on my list is also a fantasy book that also came out on the 6th of February, and that is The Queen's Rising by Rebecca Ross. This book takes place in a world where when you turn 17, you have to choose a passion to follow, and you can choose between art, music, dramatics, wit, and knowledge. And basically the main character, Brianna, is struggling to choose, and she eventually chooses to go into knowledge, but when it comes to her 17th birthday, she isn't able to complete the patronage. I'm not really sure what it means by that, but I'm sure I'll find out when I read it. She's basically left without a patron, and a few months later, a disgraced lord offers to take her on, and then she discovers that he actually has some dark motives for his decision to take her on, and at the same time there is a plot going on to overthrow the king of the rival kingdom and restore the rightful queen to her throne. And it turns out that some people who Brianna is really close with are involved in it, and she has to choose between following her passion or her blood. It just sounds like it's going to be a really interesting story. I'm really excited about this book because I really like stories where we have a queen who has to reclaim their throne, so I'm very excited about this book and to see what happens. The next book on my list actually came out yesterday in the UK on the 22nd of February, and that is Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. I have heard a lot of great things about this book. This is like a YA thriller mystery, but this is the first book in a new trilogy. Essentially, many years ago, this school was opened by a man, and his wife and daughter were taken and presumably murdered by this person who's going by the name of Truly Devious. All that's left to describe it is like a riddle, and basically this has just been an unsolved murder since then. And then this book follows someone in the present day called Stevie Bell, and basically she enrolls in the school so that she can solve the mystery. But things go wrong because Truly Devious makes a surprise return and all hell breaks loose, I think. I'm really excited to see what this book is all about. I might put this one off until a bit later on in the year just because obviously it's the first book in a trilogy, so it might be a long time before the next books come out. Who knows? I'm not sure when I'm going to get to this one, but either way, this book sounds so great and I really want to pick it up. Now moving on to the 3 books that I'm anticipating during March. So the first book I'm anticipating is one that I'm sure you've heard of because everyone's been talking about it, and that is Children of Blood and Bone by Tommy Adeyemi. I'm really sorry if I'm saying that wrong. I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce that last name. I'm really excited for this book because it is a fantasy book, but it's set in like a West African inspired world, which is very different from a lot of the stuff I read. I've never read a fantasy book which is set in like an African setting, so I'm very excited to see that. And basically this book follows this girl called Zélie Adebola. In this world, there used to be magic, and her mother was what is called a magi, and one day the king just decided to outlaw magic and to kill off any magi that existed, which left Zélie without any powers and without any family. And now Zélie has the chance to bring back magic and attack the monarchy. With the help of a rogue princess, Zélie must outrun the crown prince, who is determined to get rid of magic for good. There are lots of dangers along this journey, not just external dangers but also internal ones, as Zelly is struggling with her powers as well as possible feelings for the enemy. And this book just sounds like so much fun. I love fantasy so much and I'm really excited to see something new. And I actually have an arc of this book from NetGalley, so I'm very excited to get to that very soon. This kind of gives me Throne of Glass vibes, but I think it's going to be really different in a lot of ways, so I'm really excited for this one. The next book on my list is Tyler Johnson Was Here by J. Coles, and this comes out on the 20th of March. This book really reminds me of The Hate U Give in a lot of ways, and basically this book follows this boy called Marvin Johnson. One night his twin brother Tyler goes to a party. Marvin decides to go as well just to keep an eye on his brother, but what starts out as just a fun party turns into a shooting and then a police raid afterwards. The next day Tyler has gone missing and it's up to Marvin to find him, but Tyler is found dead and a video is released online which shows that he was actually shot by a police officer. And basically this just deals with the aftermath of dealing with his brother's death and dealing with it becoming a big thing on social media because everyone is talking about it. So this just sounds like such a heartbreaking and important story, like The Hate U Give. I really can't wait to read this book. The next book on my list comes out on the 27th of March, and that is a new book by Gail Foreman, and that is I Have Lost My Way. Essentially this book follows three characters, Freya, Harun, and Nathaniel, and basically all of them have big things going on in their life at this time. One day an accident occurs which draws the three of them together, and basically they discover that they're gonna have to help the others to get over their losses in order to get over their own. And it says, an emotionally cathartic story of losing love, finding love, and discovering the person you are meant to be. I just think that sounds like a really nice story. I think it's definitely something that's heartbreaking because I really think that Gail Foreman likes to write things which are a little bit heartbreaking, but I do think it's going to be something that's really nice to read because it sounds like it's going to have a nice ending, hopefully. Hopefully it won't break my heart too much. Now moving on to books that are coming out in April. So the first book on my list comes out on the 5th of April in the UK. This book came out in November in the US, I think, and that is Renegades by Marissa Meyer. Basically, this story is about heroes and villains, or well, renegades and villains. And the renegades are basically these people with special abilities who have overthrown villains in the past. And this book follows this girl called Nova, who is more of a villainous character. She has allegiance to a villain. And basically Nova has a target, but she meets this boy called Adrian, and he is a renegade. I believe it's going to follow her struggle with deciding what to do. I've heard really great things about this book so far. I did read Heartless earlier this year and I was not a big fan, but I feel like these two stories are like completely different, so I think I'm gonna really enjoy this book. The next book on my list is a UK YA book, which I do not read a lot of UK YA, even though I should because I live in the UK, so I should read more of it, but I just don't. But this book also comes out on the 5th of April, and that is Clean by Juno Dawson. I'm so excited to read this book because I have never read a book by Juno Dawson, but I've been meaning to for the longest time. And this book follows a girl called Lexi, who is like this big socialite, but one day she overdoses on drugs and nearly dies, and at that point she thinks she's hit rock bottom, but she hasn't, because then she's put into a rehab facility. She meets this boy called Brady and she starts to fall in love with him, but I think it's going to be a very complicated love story. Obviously it's set in a rehab facility, so I do think that it's going to be a very messy relationship. I'm really interested in reading this book because I have not read very many books that deal with drugs, so I think it's going to be really interesting to see that, and probably quite emotional and hard-hitting. But I am like the last person who would ever do drugs. I'm very much not into it, so this is not going to be a story I can relate to, but I think it's going to be a really interesting read. So yeah, I'm really intrigued to read this book. And the final book I have to talk about is Leah on the Offbeat by Becky Albertalli. I've read Becky's other two books and loved them, so I'm super excited for this book. This comes out on the 24th of April. I haven't even read a description for it because I don't need one. I just know it's Becky Albertalli, so like, give it to me. Oh my god, I didn't even know this. Oh my god. This book is a companion to Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda because Leah is Simon's best friend. How did I forget that? I don't know. Oh my god, I'm so excited for this book. I don't even want to really read the premise. All I know is that it follows this girl called Leah who is Simon Spears' best friend, so I'm sure Simon is going to make some appearances in this book, and oh my god, I'm so excited for that. Leah is a drummer and it just follows her during her senior year of high school. She leads a very different life to the rest of her friends, and also she's struggling with her sexuality because she's bisexual, but she doesn't want to come out to her friends yet. This book just sounds like it's gonna be so good. I'm so excited to read it. This is definitely one of my most anticipated reads of the entire year. Anyway, those are all of my anticipated releases for the spring of this year. Please let me know what some of your anticipated releases are down below. I would love to know. And if you've read any of the books I've talked about, please let me know what you think. But that's going to be all for today's video, so I hope you liked it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe down below, and I will see you very soon with another video. Bye!